My name is Elena Vale. I am 32 years old, and I teach middle school choir. The night my family demanded that I confess to attacking my brother, the truth was already lying on the table between us, sealed inside the phone beneath my hand. "Sign it," my father said. Grant Vale pushed the written apology across Aunt Naomi's dining table. His voice carried the same finality he used when ending an argument at the family business. The paper said I had assaulted Owen in a jealous rage, lied afterward, and caused the cancellation of his wedding. One signature would turn their version of that night into the official history of our family. Aunt Naomi sat at the head of the table, neither agreeing nor rescuing me. She had promised only that everyone would remain seated long enough for the truth to be heard. I trusted her rules more than I trusted anyone in the room. Owen sat across from me with his injured arm held carefully against his body. He did not look at my face. Celeste sat beside him, composed enough to appear wounded and frightened instead of watchful. My father remained standing, as if the meeting were a hearing, and he had already delivered the verdict. My ribs had begun to heal. The memory of his fists had not. "I won't sign a lie," I said. Celeste released a quiet breath. "Then why did you ask us here?" "I didn't. Naomi did." I placed my phone beside the apology. "But I brought something you all refused to hear." That finally made Owen look at me. Nearly 20 minutes of sound waited behind my dark screen. It had captured the kiss I never invited, the warning nobody let me finish, the first blow, the fall, the accusation, and my father choosing violence before truth. Stranger still, the recording had begun with me practicing a toast for the wedding they later removed me from. Before I tell you how that phone became the only witness willing to defend me, subscribe, tap the notification bell, and like this story. Then tell our community where you are watching from and whether you believe family loyalty should ever require silence. Now let me rewind 4 months, to the afternoon my brother made me believe I still had a permanent place beside him. Owen found me in our father's kitchen after Sunday dinner, rinsing 2 coffee cups while everyone else drifted toward the living room. He leaned against the counter with the nervous smile he had worn as a boy whenever he wanted something but hated asking. "I have a wedding problem," he said. "Already? You haven't even sent the invitations. This one can't be fixed by Celeste's spreadsheets." I shut off the faucet. "That sounds medically serious." He laughed, then glanced through the doorway to make sure no one was listening. For one soft second, we were children again, sharing secrets while our mother played scales in the next room. "I need a best woman," he said, "specifically my best woman." I stared at him. "You're asking me?" "I'm telling you that nobody else gets the job." The answer rose so quickly it hurt my throat. Owen was 3 years older, the person who had walked me to school after Mom died and waited outside my first disastrous choir audition. Lately, his work at Vale Building Supply and the wedding had consumed most of his time. I had missed him without admitting it. His request felt like proof that the distance between us was temporary. I had spent years becoming useful whenever the family needed steadiness, then disappearing when crisis passed. Being chosen mattered more than I wanted Owen to know. It sounded like belonging spoken aloud, where no one could revise it. "Yes," I said. "Of course, yes." He wrapped me in a hug and lifted me just enough to make my shoes scrape the floor. "One condition," he said when he set me down. "Your speech cannot make me cry." "Then choose somebody who doesn't know you once slept with a nightlight shaped like a duck." "That information is classified." Celeste appeared in the doorway before I could threaten him with more childhood evidence. She was immaculate even after dinner, one hand resting lightly on the frame. "Did she say yes?" she asked. Owen pulled me against his side. "She did." Celeste smiled and embraced me. "Good. You understand him better than anyone." At the time, I heard affection in those words. I promised her I would help make the wedding beautiful. I promised Owen a toast worthy of him. I did not know that, months later, they would sit together while my father ordered me to confess. I only knew my brother had chosen me to stand beside him, and I went home already arranging the first lines of the speech that would eventually record the destruction of our family. When we joined Dad in the living room, Owen announced my appointment as though he were filling an executive position. Elena has accepted the role, he said. Dad looked up from the folder of venue estimates Celeste had brought. Best woman, he said, testing the phrase. Just make sure nobody thinks this is an invitation to improvise the ceremony. I teach 12-year-olds to perform in public, I said. I can survive one wedding. A wedding represents the family. Surviving is a low standard. That was Dad's way. He could turn a joke into an evaluation without changing his tone. Since founding Vale Building Supply, he had come to treat every room like a branch office and every disagreement like inefficient procedure. Owen understood that language. He had become operations director after college and now spent his days solving delivery failures, staffing gaps, and whatever emergency Dad had declared unacceptable before breakfast. Mom had been the one person who could interrupt him without creating a contest. Elise Vale taught piano from the front room, where her upright still stood beside the window. When Dad's voice grew too sharp, she would begin a scale and say, "Grant, you're rushing the measure." He always slowed down for her. After she died, Owen became useful, and I became agreeable. Those were the shapes grief assigned us. He learned the business because Dad needed an heir beside him. I learned to hear anger before it arrived and soften my own voice accordingly. Neither of us ever discussed the arrangement. That evening, Owen sat on the piano bench and pressed one silent key while Celeste reviewed the calendar. Rehearsal dinner, florist meeting, venue walkthrough, final fitting. Her lists had lists, each color-coded and timed. "You're enjoying this," I told her. "Organizing people who ignore deadlines is my profession." She worked for a hotel group coordinating conferences and private events, and she carried competence like perfectly tailored clothing. "Your brother is my most difficult client." Owen looked at me. "Please remember you represent my interests. My first duty is to the truth." Celeste laughed. "That's why I'm glad he chose you." For the next few weeks, I believed we were becoming friends. She included me in dress discussions without trying to make me look like a bridesmaid, asked for music suggestions, and sent photographs of table arrangements with captions that made Owen's indifference sound criminal. I defended him when he forgot to answer. I also reminded him when something mattered to her. "She wants you at the tasting, not your opinion delivered by text," I told him one afternoon. "I have 3 drivers out and Dad promising same-day delivery to half of Franklin County. Then tell her that yourself. This is why you're the best woman." "No, this is why both of you need calendars." He attended the tasting. Helping them felt natural until Celeste began contacting me after Owen went to bed. The first late call came shortly after 10 on a school night. I was marking rehearsal notes when her name appeared. "Is everything all right?" I asked. "Yes, no, I don't know." Her voice was quieter than usual. Owen came home and opened his laptop. I asked if we could have one evening without the company, and he said Dad needed numbers before morning. That sounds like Owen under pressure. Was he always like this? Responsible to the point of self-destruction? Since birth. She did not laugh. I mean emotionally. Does he ever let someone all the way in? The question felt too intimate for me to answer on his behalf. "He loves you," I said, "but if you need something different from him, you have to tell him. He hears criticism whenever I try. Then try when neither of you is angry." There was a pause. "Please don't tell him I called," she said. "I don't want him thinking I'm complaining to his sister. I should have challenged the secrecy. Instead, I treated it like embarrassment and promised only that she should speak to him soon." When the call ended, I looked toward the keyboard in my apartment, where my marked score waited. A held note can create beauty, but hold it beyond its measure, and the whole song strains around it. Celeste's question stayed with me that way, quiet, unresolved, and already lasting longer than it should have. Dad's instruction returned. As I had gathered my coat after dinner, he had followed me into the hall. "Keep Owen steady," he said. It had not been a request. In Dad's version of love, family members carried a load, and mine was making conflict disappear before it reached anyone he personally considered absolutely essential. The late calls continued. At first, each one had a reason. Owen had missed a venue appointment, answered an email during dinner, or defended Dad when Celeste wanted him to defend her. I listened, suggested better times to talk, and ended every conversation by directing her back toward the man she planned to marry. Then her questions changed. "Have you ever been in love?" she asked one night. "Yes." "Why didn't it last?" "That isn't relevant to Owen. Not everything has to be about Owen." The words made me sit straighter. When you call his sister to discuss your relationship, most things should be... She apologized and blamed wedding stress. I accepted the apology, but I stopped answering after 10. She responded by sending messages during my lunch period. Some were harmless photographs of flowers. Others asked whether I was lonely, whether teaching left room for a personal life, or whether I always hid behind responsibility. I answered the logistical questions and ignored the rest. At school, I knew what a boundary sounded like before anyone named it. A student who joked too sharply received a look. A singer crowding another's space was repositioned. A rehearsal stopped when somebody said no. Outside my classroom, I had a worse habit. I searched for the kindest possible explanation until my own discomfort seemed impolite. Celeste was not wrong for being attracted to women, or for realizing she might feel something she had not expected. She was wrong only when she treated my empathy as an opening after I had given her none. 2 weeks before the family shattered, I met Owen for coffee and tried to warn him without exposing Celeste's confidences. "You two need time together that doesn't involve the wedding or the company," I said. He rubbed both hands over his face. "Did she send you?" "No, I'm observing." "Then observe that I'm keeping Dad's company running while planning a wedding." "Your company too," I said gently. "But Celeste is marrying a person, not an operation." His expression hardened for a moment, then softened. "After the quarterly inventory, I'll take a weekend off. Tell her that." "I will." He meant it when he promised. That was part of the tragedy. Owen was not incapable of love. He had simply learned from Dad that providing solutions excused every emotional absence. Before that Saturday, I had begun limiting our exchanges to the group chat. Celeste noticed. She asked whether she had offended me, and I said our private conversations had become too personal. She answered with a heart, then behaved normally around Owen. Her composure made me question whether I had exaggerated the problem. That doubt followed me into Dad's house, where I believed I would be alone. The Saturday everything changed. I went to Dad's house to work on my toast while he and Owen handled an inventory problem at the main warehouse. The wedding was 3 weeks away. I had delayed writing because every opening sounded sentimental or false. Mom's upright piano waited in the front room, its walnut surface polished, her old metronome still resting above the keys. I sat on the bench with my phone and read my latest attempt aloud. "Owen has spent his life arriving when other people need him," I began, sometimes with exactly the right answer, and sometimes with a toolbox when the problem is clearly emotional. I stopped the recording. "Too much," I told the empty room. On the 4th attempt, I stopped performing and spoke to the brother I remembered. When our mother died, Owen never promised me everything would be fine. He just sat outside my bedroom until I was ready to open the door. That is the kind of love he understands best, staying close enough to be found. My voice cracked. I reached for the phone, intending to save the take, when the front door opened. "Elena?" Celeste called. I set the phone face down on the piano without touching the stop control. The timer continued silently. Celeste entered carrying a binder Owen had left at her apartment. She said she had expected him to be home. "Warehouse problem," I explained. "You can leave that here." She placed the binder on a chair but did not leave. Her eyes moved from the piano to my face. "Were you crying?" "I was practicing the toast." "You always protect him. I also criticize him. Ask him. But you believe he's good." "Yes." Her mouth tightened. "What if being good isn't enough for me anymore?" I stood. "Then you need to postpone the wedding and tell him why. You make everything sound simple. It isn't simple. It is honest." She stepped closer. You're the only person who listens without making me feel unreasonable. Celeste, stop. You must feel this too. I don't. The red recording light remained hidden against the piano while she closed the space I had asked her to keep. Celeste kissed me. There was no hesitation long enough to misunderstand, and no invitation she could honestly claim. One moment I was backing away, the next her hand was against my neck and her mouth was on mine. I shoved her hands off and stumbled into the piano bench. No. She stared at me, breathing hard. I told you I don't feel that, I said. You cannot touch me that way. I thought, you did not ask. You listen to me. You look at me like you understand. Understanding you is not consent. Her face changed from shock to calculation so quickly that I almost missed it. You don't have to make this ugly. Owen has to know. Nothing happened. You kissed me 3 weeks before marrying my brother. Something happened. She reached for my wrist. I moved beyond her grasp. I made a mistake, she said. If you tell him now, you'll destroy everything over one mistake. You need to tell him. If you don't, I will. The front door opened before she could answer. Owen entered first, moving quickly toward the chair where she had placed his binder. Dad was behind him in the driveway, finishing a call. Owen stopped when he saw Celeste crying and me standing near the piano. What happened? Celeste folded both arms around herself. Elena thinks we shouldn't get married. That isn't what happened, I said. She has been judging our relationship for weeks. Now she says she's going to ruin the wedding. Owen looked at me. Did you say that? Celeste kissed me. Silence struck the room. Celeste shook her head. I tried to hug her. She turned it into something disgusting. That is a lie. You've wanted him to doubt me from the beginning. Owen, listen to me. He raised one hand. Stop. I had never seen him look at me that way. His face held no curiosity, only the anger of a man who believed he had arrived just in time to protect something. She kissed me, I repeated. I told her no, and I told her you deserved the truth. Celeste began crying harder. She cornered me because I asked why she's been avoiding me. Leave, Owen told me. Not until you understand what happened. You walk into every problem like you're the only adult in the room. He stepped between Celeste and me. You decide what people feel, what they should say, how they should live. This is not about my personality. She crossed a boundary. Get out. I moved toward the hallway, intending to wait for Dad if I had to, but Owen caught my upper arm. Let go of me. You don't get to accuse her and walk away. You just ordered me to leave. I pulled against his grip. He jerked me back and struck the side of my face with his open hand. The sound seemed impossibly loud. My lips split against my teeth. For a second, neither of us moved. Owen, Celeste whispered. I tasted blood. You hit me. He released my arm, but instead of stepping away, he blocked the hall. I tried to pass on his left. He shoved my shoulder, sending me against the wall. Move, I said. He advanced again. I put both palms against his chest and pushed once, as hard as I needed to create space. Owen stepped backward. His heel caught the edge of the low table behind him. The table tipped. He reached for it, missed, and fell sideways into the corner of Dad's display cabinet. Glass rattled. Owen hit the floor with a cry, one hand flying toward his shoulder. Blood appeared above his ear where the cabinet had opened his scalp. I froze. Owen? Celeste dropped beside him. Don't touch him. Call an ambulance. Dad entered at that moment. His phone was still in his hand. He saw Owen on the floor, Celeste kneeling beside him, blood on the cabinet, and my split lip. What happened? He demanded. Celeste answered before I could breathe. Elena attacked him. No, I said. Owen hit me. He grabbed me and I pushed him away. She came after both of us, Celeste said. She's been obsessed with stopping the wedding. Dad looked down at Owen. Is that true? Owen's face had gone gray with pain. He cradled his arm and did not answer immediately. That hesitation should have saved me. Dad treated it as confirmation. He crossed the room and seized the front of my blouse. Dad, listen. His fist struck my mouth before I finished. I fell against the piano. My shoulder hit the wooden edge, and a burst of pain traveled down my arm. Somewhere inches from me, the phone continued recording the instrument shuddering beneath the impact. "Grant, stop!" Naomi was not there to say. Mom was not there to begin a scale. No one in that house possessed a voice he respected more than his anger. "You could have killed him," Dad said. "He hit me first." He dragged me upright and drove me back into the wall. The air left my lungs. I raised my arms over my face. "Ask her why," Celeste said behind him. "Ask why she has been trying to turn him against me." "I wasn't." My words came broken between breaths. "She kissed me. The phone—" Dad struck me again, cutting off the sentence. I slid to the floor. He kicked my side once, beneath my raised elbow. Something inside my ribs gave with a small, sickening sensation. I curled around it. Owen said, "Dad, enough." He sounded weak and distant. He did not say I was telling the truth. He did not say he had hit me. Dad stood over me. "You are finished here. You will not attend the wedding. You will not call Owen. You will not bring this filth near our family again." I looked past him at my brother. "Tell him." Owen closed his eyes. Dad's voice lowered. "As far as I am concerned, I have no daughter." Those words hurt differently from the blows. Pain had edges. That sentence opened beneath me. I used the piano to pull myself upright. My fingers landed beside the phone. I gathered it with my keys and bag without looking at the screen. Celeste watched me. For the first time since Owen entered, she had stopped crying. I understood then that nothing I said in that room would survive her next sentence. Dad had chosen his verdict. Owen had chosen his silence. I pressed one hand against my ribs and walked out while they called for help for the man who had struck me first. Outside, sunlight struck the driveway with ordinary brightness. I reached my car before my knees weakened and caught myself against the door. Through the window, I saw Dad bend over Owen with the tenderness he had denied me. I wanted to go back for one complete sentence, but blood filled my mouth, and every breath warned me that staying would invite another blow. My phone kept recording from inside my bag. I could not drive. Turning my torso toward the steering wheel sent a blade of pain through my side, and my hands shook too hard to fit the key into the ignition. I called Lila Chen. She answered on the second ring. "Elena?" I tried to say I needed a ride. What came out was a sound I had never heard from myself. "Tell me where you are," she said. Lila was the counselor at my school, and the friend who could hear panic without amplifying it. She arrived 15 minutes later, took one look at me through the car window, and unlocked the passenger door of her sedan. "Urgent care," she said. "Owen is hurt. So are you. Dad thinks I attacked him. You can tell me in the car. Right now, breathe shallowly and let me help you stand." At urgent care, the nurse photographed my face for the chart and asked the questions people ask when injuries contradict the first explanation offered. "Did someone strike you?" I looked at Lila. She said, "You decide what you answer." "My father," I said. The words made the room reel. Imaging showed a non-displaced fracture in one rib. My left shoulder was strained but not dislocated. The split inside my lip needed cleaning, and bruising was already darkening along my cheek and forearms. The clinician gave me written instructions, discussed reporting options, and asked twice whether I had somewhere safe to stay. I did. My apartment had never felt important until that question. Lila drove me home, arranged medication and water beside my bed, and helped me change without lifting my left arm. She did not ask why I had failed to prevent the disaster. She asked which locks Dad or Owen could open. Neither had a key. Every ordinary movement had become an argument with my body. Rolling out of bed required a plan. Drinking water pulled at my lip. A full breath stopped against the fractured rib, and lifting my left arm recreated the piano's edge against my shoulder. I conducted music for a living. My body was the instrument I used to give other people tempo. For the first time, raising one hand felt beyond me. That frightened me deeply. My phone died sometime during the examination. We left it charging in the living room. The next afternoon, I woke from a shallow sleep with every breath measured against pain. 3 messages waited from relatives. None asked whether I was safe. They said Owen had needed his shoulder reset and stitches in his scalp. They said I should be ashamed. One said Dad was too devastated to speak to me. Owen had not messaged. I muted the family thread and opened my phone to find the toast recording. I wanted to salvage the lines about Mom before grief contaminated them permanently. The newest voice memo lasted 19 minutes and 43 seconds. I stared at the duration. My rehearsal had taken less than 4. Then I remembered setting the phone face down. I carried it to my bedroom, closed the door although I was alone, and put on headphones. My own hopeful voice entered first. When our mother died, Owen never promised me everything would be fine. I listened through the pause, the front door, and Celeste asking whether I had been crying. When the kiss happened, the recording caught the bench scraping, and my immediate no, it caught every word after that. Understanding you is not consent. Owen has to know. She kissed me. Let go of me. You hit me. The fall sounded worse than I remembered. The cabinet cracked, Owen cried out, and Celeste's lie arrived almost instantly. Elena attacked him, then Dad's voice. My attempts to explain, the impacts, the piano shuddering, Owen saying only, "Dad, enough!" Finally, Dad's sentence. As far as I am concerned, I have no daughter. The memo continued with the front door closing, my uneven steps, the car door, and several minutes of muffled breathing before the battery died. I removed the headphones. Vindication did not feel clean. It felt like being forced to inhabit the room again, except this time I could hear the exact moment each person abandoned me. I wanted to send the file to every relative who had condemned me. I wanted Celeste's lie to collapse as publicly as she had allowed it to spread. But underneath that anger was the brother from the toast, sitting outside my childhood bedroom after Mom died. First, I preserved the evidence. I left the original untouched, exported 2 protected copies, and recorded the file details and time. I saved the urgent care documents beside them. Then I wrote Owen a message and deleted it. I wrote another, removed every accusation, and deleted that too. If I sent the recording without warning, Celeste would make the delivery the story. If I posted it publicly, Owen might hear the worst night of our lives alongside strangers. He had failed me, but I was not ready to punish him for an audience. I decided to offer him one private chance to listen. My message contained 4 sentences. Owen, my phone recorded what happened from before Celeste entered until after I left. The file is unedited. I want you to hear it privately before I decide how else to protect myself. We can listen with Naomi present if you do not want to meet me alone. He read it within minutes. His answer came an hour later. Stop threatening Celeste. She told me you recorded pieces and are trying to make them sound like something else. I will not participate in this. I typed, it begins before she arrived. You can inspect the original on my phone. The message did not deliver. He had blocked me. There are silences caused by missing information. Owen's was different. I had placed a door in front of him, labeled it truth, and offered him the key. He had chosen the wall beside it. Within days, Celeste's account hardened into family fact. She told relatives I had developed an unhealthy fixation on their relationship, secretly recorded private conversations, and attacked Owen after being confronted. Dad said I was using technology to escape responsibility. No one mentioned the blood on my face. I did not send the audio into the family thread. Every message urged me to defend myself publicly, but Lila helped me distinguish urgency from strategy. What outcome do you want? She asked. The lie corrected. Then protect the proof until people are required to hear the whole thing. At school, I wore makeup over the fading bruise and kept my left hand lower while conducting. My students noticed the change in movement, but accepted my explanation that I had been injured in a fall. I hated the partial truth, yet they were children, not an audience for my family's violence. The principal called me in the following week. A parent had heard that I was involved in a violent incident and asked whether students were safe around me. My stomach dropped, but but I had prepared for the possibility. I was assaulted during a family dispute, I said. I used one defensive push after my brother struck me. I have medical documentation and an unedited audio recording. No charges have been filed against me, and there has been no allegation connected to my work. The principal listened, asked practical questions, and thanked me for disclosing the situation. I left with my position intact and a new understanding of how far Celeste's lie could travel without ever naming its source. That evening, Aunt Naomi called. "Grant told me you are refusing accountability," she said. "Did he tell you he hit me?" Silence. "No." "Did Owen tell you he hit me first?" "No." "Then I need your word that you will listen before deciding what I owe anyone." Naomi came to my apartment the next morning. Before I played the memo, she examined the file details, watched me open the original, and asked whether I consented to her hearing everything. When I said yes, she sat beside me at the kitchen table. She did not interrupt once. After Dad's final sentence faded, Naomi removed her glasses and pressed her fingers against the bridge of her nose. "Grant did this to you? You heard him. And Owen has refused to hear it? He blocked me." Her grief showed, but she did not convert it into advice about forgiveness. "What do you want from me?" she asked. "A room where they cannot walk out before it finishes." Naomi agreed to host a meeting with strict rules. Before she could arrange it, Dad sent her the apology he expected me to sign. It stated that I had attacked Owen without provocation, invented an accusation against Celeste, and caused the wedding's cancellation through malicious interference. He wanted my signature witnessed and copies distributed to everyone who had heard my claims. By then, Owen and Celeste had canceled the ceremony, telling relatives they could not celebrate under threat. They remained engaged and described the cancellation as a sacrifice my behavior forced upon them. That distinction explained the apology's wording. They blamed me for losing the wedding while still presenting themselves as a couple. Celeste added one condition. After signing, I was to surrender every copy of the recording. That condition clarified the meeting for me. They could call the file false, but they were frightened of its existence. Naomi scheduled Saturday afternoon. She told them I would attend and bring my phone. Dad interpreted that as surrender. Owen unblocked me long enough to send one message. "Do the right thing, Elena. Sign it, and maybe someday we can repair this." I read the words twice. He was offering conditional mercy for violence he had initiated. I did not answer. I printed my urgent care record, confirmed that every audio copy opened correctly, and placed the unsigned apology in my bag. I was not going to Naomi's house to earn my place back. I was going because a lie becomes inheritance when nobody interrupts it. Back at Naomi's table, I unlocked my phone. Dad tapped the apology with one finger. "We came for a signature, not another performance." Naomi folded her hands. "You came because I said everyone would be heard. Elena will play the file without interruption. Afterward, each of you may respond. If anyone leaves early, I will consider that a refusal to participate." "She could have edited anything," Celeste said. "You may inspect the original when it finishes," Naomi replied. Owen stared at the phone. His arm was no longer in a sling, but he held his shoulder stiffly. "Play it." I pressed the screen. My earlier voice filled the dining room, warm with a future none of us had reached. Owen has spent his life arriving when other people need him, sometimes with exactly the right answer, and sometimes with a toolbox when the problem is clearly emotional. The recorded version of me laughed softly and started again. When our mother died, Owen never promised me everything would be fine. He just sat outside my bedroom until I was ready to open the door. That is the kind of love he understands best, staying close enough to be found. Owen lowered his head. The toast mattered because it destroyed the motive they had assigned me. I had not entered Dad's house obsessed with ruining the wedding. I had entered trying to honor my brother. The recording moved through the opening door and Celeste's arrival. Her voice sounded controlled at first. "Were you crying?" "I was practicing the toast." "You always protect him." Then came the conversation about Owen, honesty, and Celeste feeling understood. The piano bench scraped sharply. My recorded voice said, "No." Celeste's face emptied of color. "Turn it off," she said. Naomi held up one hand. The agreement was no interruptions. The file continued. "I told you I don't feel that. You cannot touch me that way. I thought you did not ask. Understanding you is not consent." Owen looked at Celeste. "You kissed her," Celeste whispered. "I was confused. On the recording, I told her he had to know. She warned me not to make the mistake ugly. She said nothing had happened. Then the front door opened. Owen listened to himself ask what was wrong. He heard Celeste claim that I wanted to stop the wedding and heard me answer, clearly, that she had kissed me. He heard Celeste recast it as a hug. "You told me she tried to kiss you," he said. "Afterward," Celeste replied. "I was scared of what Elena would do." Naomi said, "Listen." Owen's recorded voice ordered me to leave. Mine tried to explain. His anger climbed with every exchange until the words became movement. My warning, his grip, my demand that he release me. The slap cracked through Naomi's dining room. Owen flinched. "You hit me," my recorded voice said. No one at the table moved. We heard Owen block my exit and my repeated demand that he move. Then came the scuffle, the single impact of my hands against his chest, the table tipping, and the cabinet exploding into noise. Owen's cry made Dad grip the back of his chair. "I thought she came at me again," Owen said. "The recording says otherwise," Naomi replied. Celeste's voice emerged over the aftermath, immediate and sharp. Elena attacked him. The lie sounded different without blood and panic directing the room. It sounded chosen. Dad's arrival followed. He asked what happened. Celeste repeated the accusation. I said Owen had hit me and that I pushed him away. Owen heard his own silence when Dad asked whether her account was true. "I was in shock," he said. "So was I answered. Then Dad heard himself seize me. "Dad, listen." The first blow landed. Grant's knees bent as though the sound had struck him again from the opposite direction. He sat down. My recorded explanation kept trying to exist between impacts. He hit me first. She kissed me. The phone. Each attempt ended beneath his voice or another blow. Celeste's recorded prompt was unmistakable. Ask her why. Ask why she has been trying to turn him against me. Dad looked at Celeste with something colder than anger. We heard my body slide against the wall. We heard him accuse me of nearly killing Owen. Then the kick, my broken breath, and Owen's only intervention. "Dad, enough." Owen covered his mouth. The recording reached the banishment from the wedding. My voice asked Owen to tell the truth. His answer was silence. Finally, Dad's sentence entered the room. "As far as I am concerned, I have no daughter." The file continued through my steps, the closing door, and my breathing inside the car. Nobody asked me to stop it now. When the recording ended, the silence felt larger than Naomi's house. Naomi placed my urgent care report beside the apology. The list of injuries made Dad stare at his hands. Owen read the line documenting my fractured rib, then looked toward the shoulder he had injured in the fall. For weeks, his wound had been the family's entire moral argument. Now the page recorded what their story had erased. I had left the same house bruised, bleeding and afraid, without anyone offering me medical help or asking where I went afterward. Celeste stood first. "I made a mistake. Elena encouraged an emotional connection for weeks, and I misread it. That does not excuse her pushing Owen." "I never said the push did not happen," I replied. "It was defensive. Your attraction was not the wrongdoing. The unwanted kiss and the lie were. You could have handled it privately." I tried. I opened Owen's message on my phone and turned the screen toward him. "I offered you the original before anyone else heard it." Owen read his own refusal. "Celeste said it was edited. And you chose not to verify that." He looked at me, finally without anger. "I did." Celeste reached for him. "Owen, we were both terrified. She was threatening everything." He moved his hand away. "You lied before you had time to be terrified." I heard it. "So you're choosing her?" "I'm choosing what happened. His voice broke, and I'm admitting what I did. He removed his engagement ring and placed it on the table. The engagement is over. Celeste stared at the ring, then at me. I felt no victory, only the exhaustion of watching a future collapse after everyone had spent weeks blaming me for breaking it. Dad pressed both palms against the table. Elena, I was wrong. You beat me. His eyes closed. I know. No, you know now because you heard yourself. I knew while I was asking you to stop. He began to apologize, but I raised one hand. Your apology does not restore access to me. Owen ending the engagement does not restore trust. The truth is not a reset button. Naomi slid the unsigned confession away from my place. Then we discuss corrections, she said, not forgiveness. For the first time that afternoon, the room followed Elena Vale's version of events, the one in which I was not evidence to be managed, but a person who had survived them. Celeste left Naomi's house without the ring. She tried once to speak to me in the hallway. I never wanted Grant to hurt you. You told him I attacked Owen while I was bleeding. I panicked, and then you had weeks to stop panicking. I stepped back inside and closed the door. Before sunset, I blocked her number and email. No explanation she could offer would alter the boundary I needed. Naomi kept the others at the table after I left. She told them correction required more than private remorse. The accusation had traveled through relatives, wedding vendors, and enough community gossip to reach my school. The truth had to travel at least as far. Owen began the next morning. He wrote to every relative who had received his account. He said he had struck me first, that my push had been defensive, and that an unedited recording proved Celeste's allegation false. He accepted responsibility for refusing to hear the file when I offered it privately. He did not share the audio or expose Celeste's sexuality. He corrected the lie without turning anyone's identity into spectacle. He sent the same factual statement to Naomi and asked her to preserve it. At my request, she forwarded it to my principal. The rumor at school ended without a public announcement. Owen's separate letter to me arrived 3 days later. It contained no request for forgiveness. I hit you. I let pain and fear become permission. Then I protected my certainty by refusing evidence. Celeste lied, but I chose what I did before and after her lie. I am beginning therapy and an anger management program. You owe me no response. I saved the letter and did not answer. Dad's first apology came through Naomi because I would not accept his calls. It was longer than Owen's and less complete. He wrote about shock, fear for his son, and grief making him hard after Mom died. I returned it with one sentence. Context is not accountability. His second letter was shorter. I beat my daughter while she begged me to listen. There is no justification. I will respect whatever distance she requires. That one I kept. Grant entered counseling for grief and anger. At Naomi's insistence and Owen's agreement, he reduced his daily authority at Vale Building Supply while he began treatment. He did not lose everything in one theatrical reversal. He lost the assumption that being our father guaranteed access to us, obedience from us, or control over the meaning of what he had done. My boundary allowed him one written letter each month. I promised no replies. Some months I read them, some months I placed them unopened in a drawer. Owen and I remained apart longer. The canceled wedding became an empty date on the calendar, then a date that passed. He continued counseling and sent brief updates through Naomi without asking her to pressure me. Months after the meeting, I permitted him to write directly once every few weeks. His messages were ordinary on purpose. He told me when he completed another therapy session, when he moved out of the apartment he had shared with Celeste, and when he finally sat at Mom's piano without touching a key. He never wrote, "Remember when we were close?" He understood that memory was not a claim on my future. I answered only once. I received this. That was not reconciliation. It was a door unlocked but not opened. My body healed more predictably than my trust. The bruise faded first. My lip closed. The ribs stopped governing every breath, and physical therapy returned the full reach of my shoulder. At school, I gradually lifted both hands again. My students did not know the history inside that movement. They only knew their conductor had become strict about listening. When one section drowned out another, I stopped rehearsal. Volume is not authority, I told them. If you cannot hear the people beside you, we are not making music together. Lila, watching from the auditorium door, understood why my voice trembled. 4 months after Owen asked me to be his best woman, our school held its autumn concert. Students filled the risers beneath warm stage lights, whispering through their nerves. Families settled into the darkened seats. I stood beside the piano with my phone in my hand. This time, I opened the recording application deliberately. I'm saving this for you, I told the students, so you can hear what courage sounds like after you've forgotten you had it. They straightened, suddenly serious. An unread message from Owen waited above the recording icon. I did not open it. The message could wait until I chose to receive it. Evidence could wait. Family could wait. For once, nothing outside that room controlled the next measure. I pressed record and placed the phone face up on the piano. Then I raised both hands. 30 children watched me for the first breath. I gave them the tempo and they began. This time, every voice entered because I invited it.